Before we begin, this story involves psychological distress, institutionalization, and a death that's never been fully explained. If that's something you need to step away from, we understand. Take care of yourself first. March 9th, 1993. A transfer van is moving two women from Broadmoor, Britain's highest security psychiatric hospital, to a lower security clinic in Wales. Jennifer Gaber-Unz lays her head on her twin sister June's shoulder. She doesn't lift it again. By the time the van arrives, Jennifer is dead. No drugs, no poison, no injury. The pathologist's report will say acute myocarditis, sudden inflammation of the heart. It won't say why. You're listening to The Unlit Room. Every story in here actually happened. That's the part that should scare you. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Today, two twins who spoke only to each other wrote novels in a locked bedroom and made a pact that one of them had to die so the other could live. June and Jennifer Gaber-Unz were born on April 11, 1963, in Aden, Yemen. Their father a technician with the Royal Air Force, part of the Windrush generation of Caribbean immigrants who'd come to Britain after the war. The family eventually settled in Haverford West, a small market town in southwest Wales. The twins were the only black children in their school. The bullying started immediately. It was relentless, not the kind that comes and goes, but the kind that defines your entire experience of a place. The school's solution wasn't to stop the bullying. It was to dismiss June and Jennifer early each day so they could avoid the other students on the way home. The twins stopped talking. Not gradually, they withdrew. Their speech, already rapid and coloured by Bajan Creole, became unintelligible to teachers, to classmates, to nearly everyone. People called it a secret twin language. Cryptophasia, the textbooks would say, a phenomenon where twins develop a private communication system. But that wasn't quite right. They were speaking English, just very fast, with an accent nobody around them bothered to decode. Their parents couldn't understand them. Their teachers gave up trying. The only person who could understand June was Jennifer. The only person who could understand Jennifer was June. So they stopped speaking to anyone else entirely. It's worth pausing on what that means. Not a choice to be mysterious, not a game. Two girls in a town where nobody looked like them, speaking a version of English that nobody cared enough to understand, and so they simply stopped trying. Micro cliffhanger 1. But the school had a theory about how to fix them, and it would make everything worse. Administrators decided the solution was separation. Break the bond, force them to function independently. June was sent to one boarding school, Jennifer to another. The result was immediate and devastating. Both girls became catatonic, entirely unresponsive, withdrawn into themselves so completely that they couldn't function at all. They couldn't eat, couldn't engage, couldn't exist as separate people. The experiment was abandoned. The twins were reunited, but something had shifted. They retreated further, not into each other, but into a world they built together behind their bedroom door. For years, June and Jennifer locked themselves in their room. They created elaborate scenarios with dolls. They wrote prolifically. Novels, short stories, poems, diaries. June wrote a full novel called The Pepsi-Cola Addict, which was published by a small vanity press. Jennifer wrote her own. Their stories were set in Malibu, California, a place they'd never been. A place about as far from Haverford West as you can imagine. The characters were young people driven to strange, compulsive behavior. To crime. The twins' diaries from this period are extraordinary. They documented everything. Their thoughts, their relationship, the invisible rules that governed who could move first, who could speak first, who could act. They mirrored each other so precisely that they'd developed a system of unspoken permissions. If one sat down, the other had to sit down. If one picked up a pen, the other couldn't until the first had finished. Marjorie Wallace, the journalist who would eventually write the definitive book about the twins, described visiting them during this period. They sat perfectly still, perfectly synchronized, like watching one person reflected in a mirror that had its own heartbeat. Micro cliffhanger 2. Then, in 1981, the bedroom door opened. What came out wasn't what anyone expected. June and Jennifer went on a spree: arson, vandalism, theft. They set fire to buildings. They broke into homes. After years of absolute silence and withdrawal, they erupted into the most visible, destructive behavior they could manage, as if they'd been building pressure behind that locked door and it all came out at once. They were arrested, and because the courts couldn't make sense of them, two young women who wouldn't speak, wouldn't explain, wouldn't engage with solicitors or psychiatrists, the judge sentenced them under the Mental Health Act. Indefinite detention. The destination: Broadmoor. Broadmoor isn't a prison, technically. It's a high-security psychiatric hospital, but it holds some of the most dangerous people in the British criminal justice system. The twins' crimes, arson, criminal damage, would normally carry sentences of a few years at most. June and Jennifer would spend 11 years there. 11 years, in a facility designed for people who'd committed murder, people the system considered too dangerous for conventional prison, for two girls who'd set fires and broken windows because they didn't know how else to make the world acknowledge they existed. Micro cliffhanger 3. Inside Broadmoor, the twins made a decision. It was the kind of decision that sounds like fiction, except it wasn't. They made a pact. Both of them could not live. Not really, not as full people in the world. The bond between them was a cage. As long as they were locked together, neither could speak to anyone else, neither could function independently, neither could be free. One of them had to die so the other could live. According to June, according to biographer Marjorie Wallace, according to everything written about this moment, Jennifer agreed to be the one. She volunteered. The logic, if you can call it that, was that Jennifer's sacrifice would break the bond. June would be released, not just from Broadmoor, but from the silence itself. She'd be able to speak, to live as one person instead of half of two. On March 9, 1993, the twins were finally being transferred out of Broadmoor to the Caswell Clinic, a much lower security facility in Wales. It should have been a good day. 11 years of high-security psychiatric detention were ending. In the transfer van, Jennifer laid her head on June's shoulder. By the time they arrived at Caswell, Jennifer was unresponsive. She was rushed to the hospital. She was pronounced dead. The cause: acute myocarditis, sudden catastrophic inflammation of the heart muscle. She was 29 years old. No drugs were found in her system, no poison, no physical trauma. No medical explanation for why a 29-year-old woman's heart simply stopped working at the exact moment she and her sister were being released. And then something happened that, depending on how you understand the story, was either the most devastating detail or the most miraculous one. June began to speak, not the rapid, tangled speech of the twin bond. Clear, normal English. She spoke to doctors, to nurses, to reporters. She spoke the way anyone speaks, as if she'd always been able to and had simply been waiting for permission. In a 2023 interview, June said, "We had a speech impediment. Our parents couldn't understand a word we were saying. Nobody understood. So we stopped talking." For decades, the world assumed June and Jennifer Gibb-Uns spoke a secret twin language. They hadn't. They'd been speaking English the entire time. No one had ever listened closely enough to understand. June Gibb-Uns is alive today. She lives independently in West Wales. She speaks normally. She's described her life after Jennifer as quiet and free and sad. There's no clean moral here. Two girls who were bullied into silence, a system that separated them and broke them further. A psychiatric hospital that held them for 11 years for crimes that didn't warrant 11 months. A pact that sounds like magical thinking until Jennifer died exactly when and how the pact said she would, with no medical explanation. Maybe the lesson is simpler than any of that. Two girls were speaking English. They had an accent and an impediment, and they talked fast. And instead of listening more carefully, the world decided they were speaking a language no one could understand. And then it locked them away for it. If this one kept you up tonight, good. New stories every day, Monday through Saturday. Subscribe so the next one finds you too. Follow the Unlit Room wherever you listen. Tell a friend, but maybe don't tell them it's all real until after they've finished. Full story on the main channel. Follow if you're wide awake. That was the unlit room. See you in the dark.